Hi and welcome everyone to the latest in our Short Talks series. Today I'm chatting with Dan Stamp out in Auckland, New Zealand. Dan is the founder and owner of Ultimate Performance. He is a specialist mental skills coach and lecturer out in Auckland. And we're going to talk today about facets of high performance mindset. So Dan, can you give us a little bit more background on yourself, please?
Yeah, hi Giles, and first of all, thank you for involving me in your chats with different individuals around different areas and sectors. Real pleasure to do this today. Really, for me, it started with sport. So I was an up-and-coming talented athlete. Playing rugby was my big sport, and I got to a point where, like a lot of talented teens or young 20-year-olds do, where it's make it or break it. And unfortunately, I sustained quite a bad injury, which really forced my hand to really focus on my education. So I went to university and studied sport and exercise science. And that led me into doing my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, where I specialized in psychology. And it was really from that moment that I just had this love for sport and exercise psychology. And this is over in the UK, up in the Manchester region. That's where I did my education. And when I finished my master's, I dabbled in a couple of little jobs before I really decided what I wanted to do. But it was quite obvious that I knew I had to work in this area. And I was lucky enough to get a position lecturing at Bournemouth University, which is actually my hometown. And from it just really went from there. I taught at Bournemouth for a year or so, whilst I also had an administration job. But then I did some traveling, and I came out to New Zealand, and you know how you're just in the right place at the right time sometimes. That I met up with an old university mate whilst I was in New Zealand, and he happened to hear that the sports psychologist at an institute he worked at was resigning. And he said, so if you want to do your lecturing, but you want to do it in New Zealand, why don't you apply? And that's exactly what I did. So, and in 2007, I got the job, and I turned up in Auckland. And so I started as an academic, and I've been working at Unitec Institute of Tech in Auckland since 2007. But what happened quite quickly, as you can imagine, is as people start to hear about or get to know, you meet people in industry, that there's this guy who's an academic in sports psychology, and they want to know if you actually do that with real people in the real world. Can you help athletes? Can you work with teams? So I started to work with some individuals and teams and organizations, and that led me to setting up Ultimate Performance, my mental skills coaching consultancy company. And I've, since that moment, I've been working with regional, national, international sports, individual athletes, teams, through from very young talented athletes right the way through to high performance elite Olympians, world level type athletes. And more recently, over the last few years, what's happened, and we'll talk about this a bit more, but I've deviated a little, and now I'm starting to work with lots of other sectors and industries in business, other professions, in medicine or law, sales, executives. They're all very interested in what high performance is, and sport does high performance well. So I think people in other sectors are quite interested in how athletes perform at a high level and what it is they use and how they actually achieve the things they do and are so successful at what they do.
No, thanks for that. I've spoken with a lot of extreme athletes and adventurers and polar explorers, and I think one reason I was interested to talk to you was that recognised that in training the likes of surgeons and high-performing lawyers, which I know is something you're going to touch on later, there were some interesting aspects to that. And of course, living out in West Auckland, place close to my heart as well, having lived out there for a few years, a fellow Westie. So it's really good. But so could you tell us a bit more in your mind about what constitutes a high-performance mindset?
Well, really, it's a way of being, or mindset generally is your view of the world in that moment or that situation that you're in. So a high performance mindset is very much about using your cognitive processes and your attitudes and your beliefs and your emotions to your benefit for that moment that you're in, or the task that you're operating in. So for high performance athletes, as an example, they're able to ensure that their cognitive processes and their emotions align to performing at the highest level they can during that very moment of competition. But it's really important for us to understand that a high performance mindset isn't just for these people that we think are sort of like elite and at the very top of whatever they do. Anyone can have a high performance mindset because it's so unique to us and so unique to the situation that we're in. So anybody watching this can decide to have a high performance mindset for their relationships, or for the job that they do, or for the sport that they play. So it's an intentional way of being, feeling, and thinking to be the best that you can be at what you do.
That's really good. And I was interested to chat about some insights on some of the specific areas that we might not hear about that much, but particularly I know we spoke about training some surgeons in particular. It'd be good to find out more about that.
Yeah, so as I said, high performance comes in many forms. If you think about what you do as a career, then you want to do that to the best of your level. So performance is very broad as a context, but for specific individuals, they have a very high performance domain that they want to operate in. So athletes, for example, will want to ensure that they can perform under pressure and be highly confident and cope with any mistakes or errors that they make during that highly competitive moment of a World Cup final. But as you mentioned, it's not just about athletes. I've worked with a few surgeons and lawyers, or high-level executives in different businesses, retail, real estate, just to name a couple, that they want to perform to their best in what they do. They have to hit targets. They want to achieve really big things. They have to, if we take the surgeon as an example, they have to perform under immense pressure. A surgeon is in a potentially a life or death situation. They are operating on a person where if they make a mistake, that could be drastic. So a surgeon has to come into their environment with a high performance mindset so that they can be calm and composed, yet have the right amount of arousal or emotion so that they perform at the level that they want to. They need to be motivated to go to work, to want to do what they do, and care about the people that they're helping. If they've had a bad day at home, they've got to know that they can't take, those certain emotions or moods into the workplace and allow that to affect how they then work. And the most interesting thing about surgeons is that when we talk about high performance, normally we're talking about that sort of like top 10%, top 20% maybe of that population. But with surgeons, we don't want someone who is at the 80% level or the 90% level who's operating us. We have an expectation that this person who's performing this life-saving surgery on me is going to be operating at 100%. Yeah, no mistakes, no errors, no doubt, fully confident, fully motivated. Yeah, and that comes through that expectation that we have of those types of high-performing individuals that we know exist out there. So yeah, it makes for a fascinating world to work in, because high performance can be very different for different people in different roles. Yeah.
I have to ask, so of the non-sporting professions you've coached into, what's been the most interesting, or should we say challenging?
Interestingly, I like working with salespeople because they're very driven by targets. There's this huge outcome focus. A lot of them are working on commission or bonus structures, so they want to make sure that they are, really pumping.
Oh yeah.
To make the call, to interact and engage and connect with the potential customer or client, make the sale, boom, ring the bell, hit the target and make their money. And I like that myself. It's a fascinating world to operate in, where people are so driven, because there are some really big financial rewards potentially around their success. You tend to find they are highly energized, highly motivated people. But like anyone, they have slumps. They get stuck in their trough sometimes. So it's really interesting to give them new ways or exciting ways to refine that energy and motivation so that they can, make the sales and do their job well. Working with lawyers was very interesting from the aspect of understanding what they do. So, when I work with different professionals, I've got to get an insight into what is your career domain, and how does it all work. So understanding that a lawyer, who goes to court, that's their opportunity to really perform to the best of their abilities with their interactions with the judge, their clients, the opposition, and it's a real it's difficult to describe, but it's quite complex in them knowing that they've got to speak or act a certain way towards these people, but then switch quite quickly to be like this towards these people. So that was quite fascinating in understanding how we could really understand what high performance was and what it required for them to present essentially a great case in defense, of maybe their client to hopefully get the outcome that they want. Yeah.
So is it that ability to change modes and change gears very quickly? Is that one of the key things, do you think, in that kind of arena?
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot be operating, at this high functioning level all the time, high energy, high arousal. For us to actually function well as human beings, we have to have moments of calm and rest and relaxation. And for some of us, we need those levels to perform at our best. But you know, with some roles in some careers, you've got to fluctuate between the two, and that requires immense emotional regulation. You know, knowing that right now I need to be really pumped up, really energized, maybe aggressive or assertive to a certain point, and now very quickly I've got to bring those levels down, and I've got to be calm and composed, but still get a great performance. And I do always use a sport example here. When playing rugby, you may have your goal kicker who is just been involved in a very intense, high energized breakdown in play, big tackles, big hits, rucking, mauling, all of those, that contact, the aggression, and then a penalty is won, and they've instantly got to reduce their energy and arousal levels so that they can calmly slot a ball between the posts. And that might be in the last minute of a World Cup final. You know, so to go from this to this requires a high performance mindset, but specifically within that, a very good understanding of how to use mental skills and how to regulate emotions so that you can perform at both levels, really.
And in the same way that an elite sports person might warm up and prep and go through various routines to get themselves ready to race at an event, do you do similar preparatory steps with your surgeons and your lawyers? Do you do the same thing with them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I've heard it on one of your other videos where advice was given about routine, right? Routines are essential when it comes to a high performance mindset, and not just the physical routines, but mental routines. And part of the thing I love to do with all my clients is work on those little preparatory steps, routines, the things they're going to do before they enter the big performance domain. And yeah, with the one example, it's never left me. It was a great example with one of the surgeons I worked with, that not the surgery itself, but the interaction with families when you are maybe going to be giving some bad news. You know, that requires a very strong, confident yet empathetic and compassionate person to walk into a room, you know, and give that news. And this surgeon doctor who I worked with, we worked on she admitted that she would find herself get quite anxious and wouldn't be feeling that great, obviously, about what she's got to do, and that would interfere with the potential interaction she could have with the family members, and it would basically, she would say that those conversations wouldn't always go that well. She could probably deal with them better. So we had a little thing where before she went through the door, she'd just stop outside, do a very quick little breathing exercise just to try and bring the heart rate down and to calm herself a little bit. And then she'd actually put her hand on the door before she knocked to just remind herself about how she was a fantastic doctor and surgeon, and to remind herself that she can cope with all situations that come her way. So she was using a little technique of positive self-talk just to, you know, raise the confidence levels a little bit, just to give her that little bit of positivity that she needed. And she would use that trigger of just putting the hand on the door, and she'd just take the moment, think about those things, give herself that confidence, and then knock and walk through the door. So yeah, building little mental routines, ensuring that preparation, you know, with the doctors and surgeons, there's a lot of preparation routine around the locker room. So scrubbing up, putting on the gowns and things that they wear. We would build little things around those moments to get prepared to go in and do the surgery. So using all the things that they built into their routines to get that high performance mindset running as they wanted it, so they could go in and do the job they've got to do.
That's really good. It's fascinating. I'm trying to think of ways that we can relate to that, you know, sat at your desk in an office environment. And it's interesting you said that the hand on the door acknowledgement one, because I was interviewing a world championship triathlete this morning, and she said the very same thing, that self-acknowledgement is one of the really key things that she uses, is that to remind yourself of your capability and your good points and your successes at those points when you need that focus. Yeah, it's really good, really fascinating. No, thank you for that. So I asked you to think of 3 tips for developing and maintaining a high performance mindset. So could you talk us through those?
Yeah, for me, the most essential place to go first is with what I call your glue, and it's your PVA glue: purpose, values, aspirations. Whatever mindset you're trying to build, because there are lots of different mindsets, you know, there's a competitive mindset, there's abundance mindset, there's growth mindset, and there's a high performance mindset. But for me, beneath all of that is a very powerful foundational level that contributes to a high performance, and that is knowing your PVA. You've got to understand why you're doing what you're doing. You've got to know your purpose. You know, why have you taken on this career? Why do you give so much of your life, hours of the day, to what you're doing? You know, your work career is a huge chunk of your life. So you want to make sure that there is real purpose behind it. So I really love my clients to start exploring their purpose, and what it is they're trying to do with their time here on this planet. V, your values. So really understanding those values that drive you, that motivate you, that enable you to behave at those high levels. So we've got to understand our values. And the A, aspirations. We've got to know the things we want to achieve. So we've got to be striving towards those. We've got to be setting the goals. We've got to know our targets, and we've got to know, you know, certain periods of our life and our careers, what we want to be ticking off as done, achieved, success. So PVA is my number 1 tip for starting to develop and maintain a high performance mindset. Number 2 tip is then to have a really good understanding of what contributes to you being your best. So we have all had best experiences at some point, and what we need to do is delve into those experiences and find out the ingredients that contributed to the performance. So you may say that I performed exceptionally well in a final, or during a surgery, or during a case, or during a phone call to sell a product, and it was the fact that I was highly confident, that I was highly motivated, that I spoke clearly, and that I connected with the person. Yeah. And so you start to get an understanding of these things contributed to the great performance. So once we know what those ingredients are, we've got to make sure that we're activating them and igniting them often, so that we become them more often and more regularly, so that we are our best as often as we can be. There will be areas, though, that you will identify that I would like more of that. And that's the great bit around developing a high performance mindset, is got bits that you know contribute to it already, but will also want to work on some bits so that you can actually be better than you've ever been before. And thirdly, once you know your PVA and you've got some really good understanding of your best attributes that help you with high performance, is number three, if you've got to start using mental skills to actually become that higher performing person. So, you know, working with performance psychologists, mental skills coaches specifically to learn very deliberate mental skills, I feel is essential for a high performance mindset. So learning how to become more confident, learning how to become more motivated, how to regulate and control your anxiety better, how to cope with the immense pressure that's right in front of you, how to take on that challenge that you know there's a potential of failure, but take it on and give it a go anyway. You know, it's learning those mental skills that are going to contribute to being like that.
I mean, it's brilliant. And I keep coming back to your example of the surgeon with the acknowledgement, as you say, the hand on the door. It's something that's clearly very, very powerful for her, worked very well, seems very simple, but I imagine the process of discovery and realization to get to that point is nowhere near as easy as it would sound. To get to that, when you've got someone at maybe the peak of their profession performing that well, and you're trying to unravel this aspect in a highly complex and emotionally charged situation. But that's what's fascinating talking to you, is something as simple as 4 or 5 seconds. What to people outwardly looking at it might seem next to nothing, I guess. Putting your hand on the door and just pausing for a moment can have such a powerful outcome.
Yeah. And what it is that contributes really to the high performance mindset is the engagement in these little intentional ways of being, thinking, feeling. So that those little actions may only be 5-10 seconds long. When you add them all together, become really big. So your day is filled of these little moments, so that you start to get into a pattern of thinking, and you start to develop good habits around your feelings and your thinkings, so that less and less do the negative thoughts, the doubts start to pop in, because you are regularly engaging in deliberate mental skills to bring in positive thoughts, to think about yourself kindly, to give yourself confidence, to remind yourself about how great you are at what you're doing. So if you're doing this regularly, little pockets throughout the whole day, as you move from one role to another, you know, that surgeon then had to go home and still be a mum. So she had to have her, you know, high performance mindset for her surgery, but she also had to have a high performance mindset for being mum. And that's a very different person. So she would also have little routines, mental skills routines, when she got home to, you know, channel out of being the surgeon and now become the best mum she can be. And that required different things.
That's fantastic. It's really good. Thanks for those points, Dan. They're really good. And just finally, I guess, tell us a little bit more about Ultimate Performance, if you can.
Yeah, so Ultimate Performance is my mental skills coaching consultancy business. And you can find me online. Website is ultimateperformance.co.nz. And it's very much myself and actually my partner, my wife Sonia, and we provide mental skills training, mindset training, and that includes mindfulness, meditation. Sonia is a yoga expert and teacher instructor that contributes to this area of development as well. And we're also on Instagram, Ultimate Performance NZ, and also got a Facebook page, again, Ultimate Performance NZ. And essentially, if you're really interested in contacting myself or would like to know more, then visit the website. There's the link for an email address. You can get in contact. I offer one-to-one consultancy with any professional in any sector. If that person feels that developing a high performance mindset would be valuable, then we can potentially work together. So I have a 6-session program called Creating High Performance Habits of Excellence, where I work one-to-one with my clients, normally through a video chat, especially during the extreme times that we're all living in right now. But also for any athletes or keen sports people tuning in, I do actually have an online mental skills program, which you can find on the website, which is specifically designed for developing athletes and getting you into the use and the understanding of mental skills and how that can contribute towards preparation and performance. But yeah, Ultimate Performance, there it is. Google it, look me up online if you want to get in contact, and I'd be glad to help you if I can.
Thanks, Dan. I know you're in Auckland, but we're 11 hours apart at the moment. So actually, your morning, my evening works quite well at either end of the day. But that's no barrier to working with you from over here. And yeah,
no, not at all. I've got clients across New Zealand, Australia, America, UK. So we always find a time to work for each other, and it does sometimes mean some early mornings, late nights, but that's the nature of what we do.
Fantastic, Dan. It's been really good. Some brilliant points, loads of great content there. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Giles. Lovely to speak to you.
Thanks.